Good morning, students. This is Dr. Savita Singh from Government NPG College of Science, Raipur, Chattisgarh. I am going to give you a lecture on Arvind Adiga's The White Tiger. It is a part of the Indian Writing in English, Unit 5, Paper 2 of MA English, Semester 4, Pandit Ravishankar, Shukla University, Raipur. I'm sure you must all have heard about this novel. Very famous work, and it won a lot of accolades. At the outset, children, I must tell you that you have to read the novel. That is the way you meet the characters and you meet the author. Just as the reader meets the author halfway, so the students meet the teacher halfway because they come prepared. They have already read the work. So let me begin with Arvind Adiga's The White Tiger. Let me give you an overview of what I am going to be covering. I'll be covering fiction and the reader. Arvind Adiga is White Tiger. The tale, which will be the summary. There will be a few quotations from the text so that you are able to understand the way Adiga uses language, how the author uses language. Then Balram Halwai, the protagonist, is the main character. We'll be talking about him. We shall cover the major themes, the technique used, the metaphor, the imagery. And then we shall come to what exactly is Adiga trying to do. What are the warning bells that he tries to ring? And we shall try to attempt to answer certain questions that Adiga raises through this very defiant and challenging work, The White Tiger. So let us begin the lecture. What is fiction? Students, you know that when we're talking about fiction, we're talking about something that has events and characters, but something that has been created imaginatively. And it is not necessary that a work of fiction should be based on a reality. James Wood has said, I quote him, fiction is both artifice and verisimilitude, meaning it is a creative invention with an acceptable degree of believability. Plots, even characters, etc. make up a work. The reader, now I'm talking about the reader's responsibility. The reader has to enter the fictional world that has been created by the author. He has to experience it, understand it, critically evaluate it, and he's free to accept, deny, question, challenge, justify, and so on. The reader must notice the semantic, the grammatical, and the rhetorical in a text. So, how many times does the reader need to read a work of fiction? The first reading can be called the pre-critical. Then you come to the critical reading, where you read the text very carefully. Then you come to the aesthetic reading. That is when you get the pleasure of the text. You notice all the niceties of the text and how language has been used by the author. I always recommend another reading, that is reading aloud. It is only when you read aloud, when you even hear the words of the characters, that you can really become a part of the text. When you hear the dialogues, when you enunciate and pronounce the words that are being uttered by the author in the text. See, we talk about the reader response criticism, where the reader responds and he gives meanings to the text. Part of the critical theory paper you must have read about writerly texts and the readerly texts. Writerly texts are those texts that are written again and again and again in the mind of the reader. So that is the type of reading I would expect from you, dear students. Now, Arvind Adiga. So these are a few facts about Arvind Adiga, where he was born in 1974. What is important is that his debut work, The White Tiger, won the Man Booker Prize of 2008, and it reached the New York Times bestseller list, which is something very, very creditable. Other novels by him are the Between the Assassinations, Last Man in the Tower, Selection Day, and there are a few short stories. So here you have a picture of Arvind Adiga with his work. And see the image, you've got the white tiger and you've got a rooster. Let me tell you that the rooster becomes a very, very big symbolic issue in the novel. Here I would like to quote W.B. Yeats' The Second Coming. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. I find this quotation very relevant over here because we are living in an age where the worst are full of passionate intensity, as shall be seen in the novel The White Tiger. Now, coming to the tale or the summary of the text. The story is about contemporary India, economic crisis, corruption, poverty, told through Balram Halwai in the form of letters written to Wen Jiabo, the Chinese premier. Balram tells him about entrepreneurship through the story of his life, his journey from darkness to light. So, you know, what Adiga has done is begun the work very, very cheekily. Here, he is talking to the Chinese premier and is going to talk about entrepreneurship. A common, simple man from Lakshmangarh, and here he is writing letters to the premier of China. The letters are written over 7 nights, revealing Balram's life, his childhood, ambitions, views, gesture, feeling. In the first letter itself, Adiga reveals that Balram has looted 7 lakhs from his master and murdered him, murdered Ashok Sharma. Balram Halwai becomes Ashok Sharma, a rich man in Bangalore running a successful transport business. So he has moved from poverty to wealth. About his background, through the 7 letters, the 7 chapters, Balram talks about his childhood. He was born in a poor Halwai family in Lakshmangarh. He grows up in poverty. He is made to work at a roadside tea shop in Dhanbad. His father, rickshaw puller, and his mother die when he is very young. He is brought up by a dominating grandmother, Kusum. He is intelligent, goes to school, and an inspector of schools calls him the White Tiger. The village landlords are called the buffalo, the raven, the stork, and the wild boar. They are not given names by Adiga. Balram learns driving and becomes a chauffeur to the stork's son, Ashok Sharma, and moves to Delhi with him and his wife, Pinky Madam. Pinky Madam has come from abroad, and there are many experiences that Balram talks about as a driver to Ashok Sharma and Pinky Madam. Driving drunk, once Pinky Madam hits and kills a child. But then, because they are wealthy, they are part of the light part of the rich. So the police is bribed and she is free. Later on, when Balram runs his own transport business, he tries out the same tricks. So you must have understood, students, that the work is completely around Balram Halwai and how he, from a simple village boy, moves on, becomes a driver, murders his master, loots him of money, stays in hiding in Bangalore for about 6 months, and then sets up his own transport business using all the clever tricks that he has learned down the way. He's learned about bribing, he's learned about how there's corruption in the police, how somebody can be pushed out of business, all those things he has learned because he is an eavesdropper, he has been listening carefully to all the conversations that have been taking place among his master and his friends. Now I'll read out a few quotations from the text so that you understand what the text is about. Throughout, the work is in the first person, and it is in the first person, it's a very casual tone, irreverent, he does not have respect for anything. Scheming, he keeps on justifying himself also. So here are a few quotes that I would like to read. Don't ever mistake my silence for ignorance, my calmness for acceptance, or my kindness for weakness. So here is Balram, a poor boy, very ambitious, who is desperate to get out from the life of poverty into the life of the wealthy. So throughout the work, he talks about India that has been divided into two parts, those who live in the darkness and those who live in the light. He does not want to live in the darkness anymore. He has to move to the light. Now here is the quotation from the lines where the inspector of school has come to the school and said, "You, young man, are an intelligent, vivacious fellow in this crowd of thugs and idiots. In any jungle, what is the rarest of the animals? That creature that comes along only once in a generation? It is the white tiger." So from here, he decides to name himself the white tiger. Of course, unfortunately, Balram is removed from the school because he has to earn money for his sister's dowry, and he is made to work in a tea shop, one of the roadside tea shops in Dhanbad, where he keeps on listening to people, the conversations, reading the newspapers and the small packets in which snacks are served all over the country. So we come to the next question, next quote. See, the poor dream all their lives of getting enough to eat and looking like the rich. And what do the rich dream of? Losing weight and looking like the poor. Then I was looking for the key for years, but the door was always open. So the door to success, the door to the world of the rich. The moment you recognize what is beautiful in this world, you stop being a slave. Being a slave, the slavish mentality is again one of the most important themes of the world. It is amazing. The moment you show cash, everyone knows your language. Here, again, corruption is a very important thing. Cash works. The story of a poor man's life is written on his body in a sharp pen. Throughout the novel, the suffering, the oppression, the hunger of the poor has been talked about. Strange thoughts brew in your heart when you spend too much time with old books. He loves to frequent a roadside second-hand bookstore where he sits and he looks at the books and tries to understand what they must be about. He's not so well read, but he wants to read, and he thinks a little bit of reading This triggers n number of thoughts in him. Now here, this is a very, very important passage. Me and thousands of others in this country like me are half-baked because we were never allowed to complete our schools. Open our skulls, look into the pen light, and you'll find a museum of ideas, sentences of history or mathematics remembered from school textbooks. No boy remembers schooling like the one who has been taken out of school, let me assure you. Sentences about politics, read in a newspaper while waiting for someone to come to an office. Triangles and pyramids seen on the torn pages of the old geometry textbooks, which every tea shop in this country uses to wrap its snacks in. Bits of all India radio news, bulletins, things that drop into your mind like lizards from the ceiling in the half hour before falling asleep. All these ideas, half formed and half digested and half correct, mix up with other half cooked ideas in your head. And I guess these half formed ideas bugger one another and make more harmful formed ideas. And this is what you act on and live with. So this is about education that has not been completed. Most of the poor in India are not able to complete education. But then there's a craving for knowledge. And whatever ideas are there in their minds are gathered from all these different sources. Now here is again a very, very important image that Adiga uses. It is the rooster coop image. Go to Old Delhi and look at the way they keep chickens there in the market. Here you have pale hens and brightly colored roosters stuffed tightly into wire mesh cages. They see the organs of their brothers lying around them. They know they are next, yet they cannot rebel. They do not try to get out of the coop. The very same thing is done with humans in this country. The rooster coop is a very, very powerful image that is used by Adiga to bring out the poverty, the mindset of the poor, the suffering of the poor, and how in our country they are just not able to come out of it. And even knowing that they are going to be the next one who are going to be, sacrificed on the altar of the rich and their ambitions, they just do not revolt. They cannot rebel. Neither you nor I speak English, but there are some things that can be said only in English. Now here you have the colonial hangover, and he feels that English changes things. Another very important philosophy comes up with, let animals live like animals, let humans live like humans. That's my whole philosophy in a sentence. When he's working with Ashok Sharma and the landlords, he finds that the dogs, the two Pomeranians that they have kept, live a better life than most of the poor people in India. They're pampered and looked after and fed so well, unlike the poor. So Adiga has raised many such questions through these very small sentences, full of wisdom, coming very, very spontaneously from the mind of the character that he has created in Balram Halwai. The trustworthiness of servants is the basis of the entire Indian economy. The trustworthiness, the servility, the servant culture that the poor have. And therefore, if the economy runs, it is because of this level of being a servant, of being just blindly obedient, just listening to whatever the master is going to say. Now here another one, because he comments on religion, he comments on caste system, on rich, poor, everything. It is an ancient and venerated custom of people in my country to start a story by praying to a higher power. I guess, Your Excellency, that I should also start off by kissing some gods. Which gods though? There are so many choices. See, the Muslims have one God, the Christians have three gods, and we Hindus have 36 crores divine gods to choose from. See, Balram Halwa is the main character, and whatever he is what the novel is about. As you read the novel, you understand that it is all about Balram Halwai. There are certain works, that are hinged on a particular event. Where this novel is concerned, it is hitched around Balram Halwai's character. Throughout using the first person narrative, the poet, the author has managed to uh, uh, talk about his character and cover all the themes that are required. Now, Balram Halwai's character, see, on one side I have written a number of words. You can elaborate on all these different areas. He's an ambitious person, intelligent, very ambitious, you can know, because he has to move away from the rain. Throughout the work, this is what you keep on feeling. Intelligent, very intelligent. Analytical, he will keep on analyzing and discussing what has to be done, what's got to be done. Argumentative, and he's very convincing argumentator. He's got an argument for everything. Business acumen, there's 7 lakhs, he becomes one of influential businessman in Bangalore. He's rhetorical. He clinches arguments in his favor. Though he is a murderer, he's evil, he's looted his master, he does not respect anything. But still he somehow, it is Adiga's art of characterization, that Balram Halwai will get under the skin of this character. You can feel what he's feeling, and he can rhetorically convince us that whatever he's thinking is good, is right, it is right. So he's bold and fearless. He has got insight into reality, the reality of the poor. He's an opportunist. The moment he gets an opportunity, he will use it. He's been driving the Maruti, and there's another driver who is driving the Honda City. He uses all his schemes and removes the other driver, becomes the main driver of Ashok Sharma, and starts driving the Honda City. Any opportunity that comes in his way, he is going to take. At the same time, he's very cynical. No, they cannot be good human beings, cynical about it. He's a ruthless go-getter. That is proved by the murder that he commits. In spite of, Ashok Sharma behaving well with him, looking after him, paying him well. The shrewd schemer. It is not a murder that is committed on the spur of the moment. Cold-blooded, calculated murder. Self-centered. He will not think beyond himself. He will not think about his grandmother. He will not think about his cousins. He will not try to think about, his master. He will think only about himself. He's very, very dissatisfied with his lot, very unhappy, unscrupulous. Talk about conscience, he does not have a conscience. Unsentimental, does not have emotional attachment with anyone. Though, what Adiga has managed to do, that he has shown us many dualities in his character also. That at times, there will be certain small hints that are dropped, that he feels that yes, his master is good, is kind. And the next moment, he will be full of hatred also. He's a violent murderer, because how does he kill his master? He's kept a whiskey bottle. He has been taking his master to certain politicians, where a red bag is taken and he knows that there's lots of cash in the red bag. It's a part of, they come from Dhanbad, it's part of the coal mafia or something like that. And they keep on going to these politicians with that red bag. He knows that this particular red bag has got a lot of money. And he knows that it's the next day that they're going to be going in. So he's kept a whiskey bottle, gets down from there, pretends that there is some problem with the tire of the car, the vehicle. And when his master comes down, he uses the back of the whiskey bottle and kills, murders him, and leaves him on the roadside and escapes. And he's already planned, how he's going to escape, where he's going to go, so that he's not caught. So it is not a spur of the moment, it is a cold-blooded, calculated murder that takes place. He's very manipulative and he's got dual characters and complexities in his character, which as you read the text, multi-layered, multi-meaning the text is. The text is full of such ideas that will tell you that he's got this dual character, very complex character. Now, when we think about what was Balram after, what was his quest? It was his quest that he wanted an identity. We are told in the text that he's not even been given a name. He's just called Munna. And when somebody comes to the school and they want to write out, what's your name? He says, Munna. So they give him a name. He says, okay, let us name you Balram, the sidekick of Lord Krishna. And that's how it's not his parents, it's not his family, but somebody in the school that gives him the name Balram. Of course, later on, he steps into another name, Shukla, by killing him. He wants freedom. Individual liberty is very important for him. Then upward social mobility. He cannot live in poverty. He wants wealth. He wants a position. He wants the good life. And therefore, when in the very first letter, the very first night, he says that I have got chandeliers in house. He wants light everywhere. So the imagery of light and darkness becomes very important. Balram is from the darkness, craves light. He craves his identity, a position, upward social mobility. He cannot remain from the low caste of a halwai, a village bumpkin. No, that's not for him. He has to become a businessman. He needs money. He needs a good house. He needs everything that the rich and the wealthy class of a country have. He wants equality. Why should he be treated different? He's also a human being. Justice, he talks about justice. Justice is not being done to him. Why was he taken out of his school? Whatever is his lot, it is not justice for him. Wealth, he needs power. A particular quotation came to my mind, so I mentioned over here. Sarth says, I became my own opportunity. So Balram, and this particular work is Balram's obituary. It is his story. Meaning what Sarth meant was that the moment a person decides that this is what I want to become, this is what my obituary is going to say about me. And the moment you have decided that, slowly you become that person. That is what happens in the case of Balram. His quest of attaining wealth and power and position in society is his dream, his quest, and he manages to get it. What are his emotions? Well, he's a very emotional character, let me tell you. Adiga has asked him, makes him, talk a lot. He's always talking. And therefore all his emotions, ups and downs and upheavals are expressed. His emotions are the unfettered anger. Lots and lots of anger that is brewing within him. Anger at his lot, at his poverty, at his hunger, uninhibited envy. He cannot inhibit or control the envy that he feels when he looks at his master and the people who belong to the rich class. Sitting in the vehicle outside a mall, he keeps on noticing people. He sees them going and he sees that they are dressed in their clothes, their complexion, their shoes, notices everything and he's full of jealousy. He's not happy with his own condition. There's a very interesting episode, when he has to enter. He thinks that his master is going to be, Pinky Madam has come to the mall and she's going to be there for about an hour or so. So he leaves the car and he thinks that let me also go inside the mall and see what it's like. So he and tries to enter the mall and the guard stops him. Now what does he do? He's angry. He hates the Darwan. But then, intelligent that he is, he goes into a side street where outside every mall in India you'll find there small tiny shops selling second-hand items or cheap t-shirts with Nike written, Nike or any big brand name written over there. He goes and buys a fake Nike t-shirt, he puts it on, and now the guard salutes him and allows him entry into the mall. So his visit to the mall also is an eye-opener. He can understand that if he has money, everything that the mall has to offer is for him, for the taking. There's bitter indignation. Why me? Why should I suffer? That indignation, frustration at his lot. Very frustrated, very, very unhappy. And criticism. And he goes into open rebellion. He decides that he has to rebel. He has to rebel. He cannot continue like this. So Balram's character, his traits, all the small events that take place in his life, they're small events that all characterize his visit, like his visit to the mall, his talk to the other drivers, all the drivers, because he's become a chauffeur. So all the other drivers, what they talk about, all those things play on his mind and make him what he is. And he decides that open rebellion. The drivers, they are reading, they discuss and they read some work called Murder Weekly. Manohar Kahaniya, Murder Weekly, such works. And therefore, those ideas of murder, of rebellion are there in his mind. Because he wants money. He wants to change his fate. He wants to change his destiny. Now, there are many dichotomies in Balram's character. Many contradictions within Balram. Many times his mentality, his views, his attitudes, affiliations will keep on changing, At one time he'll be all praised for his master. At the other he'll be hating him. Even his actions and comments are different. He'll say something, he'll do something. Throughout the text, as you read the text again, the second or third reading, this first reading itself, it becomes quite evident. But as you read more and more, you realize that he is a dual character. What he says, the way he speaks to his master, is full of flattery, full of respect. But within his heart, he hates him. Now, even when what Adiga has done, when he's painting the poverty, he paints the picture, of the flat in which they are living in Gurgaon. It's a wonderful, huge flat. And the servant quarter at the bottom of the flat is terrible, where all the drivers live. It is dark, it is dingy, there are cockroaches moving everywhere. It's stinking. Manages to use all types of imagery with lizards and cockroaches, small bed to sleep over there. Right in the beginning of the novel also, when he talks about his childhood, when he's grown up in a poor family, he says that the entire family used to sleep in a small room and they look like a centipede, There's so many people sleeping together in one room, so it was all legs and arms, they made up a centipede. Lack of food was there. Jealousy was there. Nobody wanted to share anything. And as for him, the dream of becoming a driver was one of his first dreams. He he works in a tea shop, and when the bus stops over there, looking at the driver's uniform, he starts dreaming. He wants to become a driver. And somehow he manages to cajole his grandma into giving him 300 rupees so that he can be trained in driving. And that's how he gets the job of a chauffeur with one of the landlords. And that's the first step of his carving out his own destiny when he becomes a driver. And then, of course, he uses all his tricks and becomes the main driver and starts driving the Honda City. And when he enters in Lakshmangarh, when he enters the landlord's quarters, Lakshmangarh is the place in the village where he's been born. He notices the high walls, the huge gate, the master sitting, and the servant, massaging his feet, and the dogs being looked after by others, the gatekeepers. And he's full of servility, when he bows down to them, asking, begging, so that he gets a job. He wants to become a driver. And once he gets a job, once he moves to Gurgaon, his grandmother has told him that since she has paid for his training to become a driver, he has to send money home. Do you think Balram does that? No, he does not. But at the same time, I'm just talking about the duality, he manages to get one of his younger brother, whom he starts looking after, who is there with him even at the end when he has shifted to Bangalore. So this duality is there, that he's been cheating, he's been murdering, but here, yes, he's looking after another person. But in that also there is a vested interest. Now this brother of his knows that he has committed a murder. So he has to be pampered. So whether Balram's intentions were very clear and, very kind, large-hearted and generous in looking after his cousin, no. This particular idea does creep into the reader's head that he was doing it because he could reveal to the police that Balram had committed a murder. Talking about his attachment for the village, he takes Ashok Sharma to the village once. But at the same time, he hates the village. And later on, when he reads the news about an entire family being killed, he knows it is his family that has been killed by the landlords. Because Balram belonged to that family, and after murdering Ashok Sharma, he had escaped. So these number of dichotomies are there. So he feels respect and resentment at the same time for his master. And the worst is that he kills him and takes his name. He does not think of any other name. So literally steps into the name Ashok Sharma. He takes over his identity, he becomes a rich person. He's been a driver, he starts a transport business. He buys a police, and in starting the business also, what does he do? he notices in Bangalore that there are these transport businesses where you have all those call centers and they need vehicles to pick and drop the employees of call centers. By playing dirty politics, he manages to drive out such a transport business out of currency, and he starts providing policies, vehicles for commuting of the call center workers. Um, a murder has been committed that I had told you about, and that is the time when, in later on, one of his drivers accidentally kills someone. He goes, bribes the police, makes it a hit and run case, so that his driver is, he is not involved in the case. His name is saved because of the bribery that his bribes that he has given to the police. And of course, again, a dichotomy in his character. But what does he do? He goes to the deceased family. He gives them 25,000 rupees and he gives employment to a son of the family, to the younger brother of the driver who was killed in an accident, of the person who was killed. The person who was killed, his brother is given employment and he goes and gives 25,000. Of course, he escapes the clutches of the law. So this is another dichotomy that we see in his character. He's giving employment. After bribing the police, nothing could have happened. Our country, he was scot free. Nobody would have blamed him for the murder, or his driver had committed. It wouldn't have come to his transport business. His business would not have been affected. Another thing that we know in our country, the rich manage to get scot free. Many a times it is the poor who are caught, who are put behind bars. Initially, Pinky Madam had managed to kill, had not managed, it was an accident. She was drunk and she was driving, she had killed a child. The family had told him that you take this responsibility on yourself and we are going to give lots of money to your family. And in complete servility, he had agreed because of the money. But of course, later on, he manages to get off it because the police are bribed and the case had been just made into a hit and run, and nothing is done about that particular case. So the same tricks are being tried. Now, all the tricks that he, as a poor person working in a rich person's household, has learned, hated, challenged, did not like, those are the same traits that you find Balram developing within himself once he becomes a rich person. So this is again a duality in his character. It is not that, Adiga has not painted a character that, if he has suffered, so he will not cause suffering. No, he will. So this is one of the issues that are there. Now, I think I'll end this lecture over here, and the next lecture, I'll be talking about the themes, the technique used by Adiga in The White Tiger. We will be talking about the different questions that have been raised by Arvind Adiga, the warning bells that he's giving about what is India, what has it come to. We'll be talking about that, and we will be trying to see that is there an answer? Can this work be taken as a warning bell, and can we look for an answer? So I end my lecture here, but again I would request my dear students that you must read the work. You have to interact with the text. You have to interact with each and every word that has been written by the teacher. See, whenever we talk about literature, we talk about the author, we talk about the text, and we talk about the reader. So you've got the author, you have the text, and you have the readers with three things. Once the author has written the work, it is in the public realm to be read by different people, understood, interpreted, analyzed, and so with Arvind Adiga's work. People have criticized it because it has painted a very dark picture of India, but it is a very, very real picture. So the dark picture, the real picture, the character, there are multiple issues of contemporary India that are dealt with in this work. In part 2 of my lecture, I shall be dealing with the themes and the techniques. Thank you. Shall meet in the next lecture.